Business is not complicated. It is just solving a problem for someone else. Most people in Britain who think about starting a business never start. Not because the idea is bad, not because they lack skill, but because they overthink the plan instead of falling in love with the person they are trying to serve. And if you never shift your focus from your own fears to the people you could help, you will stay stuck in exactly the same place you are right now, planning and researching and preparing for something you never actually begin. Here is what the data actually shows. More than a third of British adults, 38%, now say that starting a business or side hustle is the best path to building wealth, ranking it above traditional employment, investments, or climbing the corporate ladder. 30% of UK adults are currently starting or running a business in 2026, and the UK has 5.69 million private sector businesses employing 28.1 million people. The opportunity is real. The market is open. What separates the people who build wealth through business from the people who spend their working lives watching others do it is not genius. It is not a university degree. It is not a family contact or a lucky break. It is a handful of principles that almost nobody teaches clearly and almost everyone who succeeds has figured out, usually the hard way. Today, we are going to teach them to you directly. 4 principles that make ordinary British people rich through business. Not theory, not motivation. Principles you can act on starting this week. Principle 1. First principles, thinking. The biggest mistake most aspiring British entrepreneurs make is reasoning by analogy. Reasoning by analogy means you look at what your competitors are doing and you try to do it slightly better. You see a coffee shop, so you open a coffee shop. You see a fitness influencer, so you copy their content format. You see a successful Amazon seller, so you sell a similar product. This approach can work in the short term, but it is a trap. When you copy, you do not just copy the success. You copy the inefficiencies, the fears, and the strategic mistakes of whoever you are copying. You are building on a foundation you do not fully understand. First principles thinking is the alternative. It means you stop looking at what others are doing and start asking what is actually and fundamentally true. You boil the problem down to its basic components and reason up from there. The question is not, how do I make a product like my competitor? The question is, what is the fundamental problem my customer has, and what is the most effective way to solve it? Consider how this applies to a typical British business situation. Someone wants to start a food business. The analogy approach says, look at what is popular. Find a niche in the sandwich or coffee market. Try to do it slightly better. The first principles approach asks, what is the fundamental problem? People need convenient, affordable, nutritious food during their working day. The current options are either too expensive, too slow, or too unhealthy. Now you are solving a real problem from the ground up, not copying someone else's imperfect solution. The gap between the current market price and the real cost of delivering value is where every genuine business opportunity lives. Stop looking at your competition. Look at the truth of what your customer actually needs. Principle 2. The 5 elements of every business. You do not need an MBA. In fact, most business education in Britain teaches you to be an excellent employee inside a large organization, not how to build something yourself. Every business in the world, from a one-person consultancy in Manchester to a publicly listed company on the FTSE 100, is built from exactly 5 things. If you are missing one of them, you do not have a business. You have a hobby. And hobbies do not pay your mortgage. The first is value creation. You must identify what people need or want and then create it. This is not about what you want to make or what interests you personally. It is about what your customer genuinely needs. Your product or service must solve a real problem that a real person is willing to pay money to have solved. If it does not, nothing else matters. The second is marketing. If you build it, they will not come. This is the lesson that kills more British small businesses than any other single factor. Marketing is the process of attracting attention, building awareness, and creating demand for what you have made. You need to move potential customers from not knowing you exist to understanding that you have something they need. Online retail in the UK now accounts for over 25% of all retail spending, and internet sales have more than doubled as a proportion of retail over the past decade. If you are not findable online, you are invisible to a very large part of your potential market. The third is sales. Marketing attracts them. Sales gets them to commit. Sales is not about pressure or manipulation. It is about helping your prospective customer understand clearly why your offer is worth paying for and making it easy for them to say yes. Every pound of revenue in your business comes from a sale. If sales makes you uncomfortable, that discomfort is the thing most worth working on. The fourth is value delivery. You have to give people what you promised. This is where your reputation is built or destroyed. Late payments cost the UK economy £11 billion per year and close 38 businesses every single day. Many of those closures happen not because of poor products, but because of poor delivery, broken promises, and customers who never came back. Exceed what you promised, and your customers become your marketing. Under-deliver, and no marketing budget will save you. The fifth is finance. You need more money coming in than going out. That sounds obvious, but it is the fundamental truth that a significant number of British business owners fail to manage properly. You do not need to be an accountant, but you need to know your numbers. If you are unclear about your margins, your cash flow, and your break-even point, you are running your business blind. Most small businesses that fail do not fail because of a bad product. They fail because the numbers stopped working and nobody noticed until it was too late. If your business is struggling, one of these 5 things is broken. Diagnose which one it is. Fix it. Move on. Principle 3. The power of counter-positioning. Once you have the foundations, you need a strategy. And here is a truth that most British business content never says clearly enough. Hard work is not enough. If you work 100 hours a week on the wrong strategy, you will still lose to someone working 20 hours a week on the right one. Strategy is about creating a position that is genuinely difficult for your competitors to copy. The most powerful strategy available to a new or small British business is something called counter-positioning. Counter-positioning means you adopt a business model or approach that your direct competitors cannot copy, because copying you would damage their existing revenue or reputation. You find a way to win that puts your competitor in the impossible position of either ignoring you or hurting themselves trying to match you. Here is a simple British example of this principle in action. The large high street banks in the UK have spent decades charging businesses significant fees for basic banking services, justified by large physical branch networks and the appearance of stability. A new generation of UK challenger banks, including Monzo, Starling, and Tide, launched with essentially free business accounts, instant notifications, and genuinely useful financial tools built natively into a mobile app. The established banks could not simply copy this model because matching the challenger banks on price and digital experience would have required them to fundamentally reshape their entire cost structure and undermine the very fees that funded their physical infrastructure. Counterpositioning does not require you to be bigger or better funded than your competitor. It requires you to be positioned in a way that is structurally impossible for them to match without damaging themselves. Ask yourself as an entrepreneur, what could I do that would make my obvious competitor unable or unwilling to copy me? What model, price point, delivery method, or customer experience could I build that turns my competitor's size or established business model into a disadvantage rather than an advantage? That question, answered properly, is worth more than any amount of additional marketing spend. Principle 4. Solve for the person first. The final principle is the one that ties everything else together, and it is the one that is most consistently underestimated by people who are approaching business for the first time. Business is a fundamentally human activity. It is one person or group of people solving a problem for another person or group of people. And the businesses that grow fastest and last longest are almost always the ones where the founder or leadership team is genuinely deeply focused on the person they are serving rather than the product they are selling or the money they want to make. This sounds soft. It is not soft. It is the most commercially practical orientation you can have in business. When you are genuinely focused on the person you are serving, you discover what they actually need rather than what you assumed they needed. You build products and services that fit real lives rather than theoretical customer personas. You price correctly because you understand the value from the customer's perspective. You deliver consistently because you care about the outcome for the person, not just the transaction. And you build the kind of word-of-mouth reputation that in the UK market, where trust is particularly valued and cynicism about marketing is particularly high, is the most powerful and cheapest form of growth available. The practical application of this principle is simple. Before you make any significant business decision, ask one question. What does this mean for the person I am serving? Not what does this mean for my revenue? Not what does this mean for my workload or my margin? What does this mean for the person whose problem I am supposed to be solving? If every decision starts there, the rest of the business tends to fall into alignment. Now let's address the reality of what success in British business actually looks like, because the statistics are both honest and hopeful. Of UK startups founded in recent years, approximately 47% survive to their third year. Only around 2% ever pass £1 million in annual turnover. The road to scaling a business in Britain is genuinely difficult. The Employment Rights Bill, rising operating costs, skills shortages that affect 58% of UK SMEs, and a competitive market environment all make it harder than the entrepreneurship content you find online typically acknowledges. But here is what the data also shows. UK millionaires are not, in the overwhelming majority of cases, people who had a genius idea or a once-in-a-generation breakthrough. They are, as one recent UK wealth research study put it, ordinary people who made a series of sensible decisions over long periods, using the tools the UK system provides. Some came through entrepreneurship, some through property, some through senior employment, and many through the quiet accumulation of ISAs, pensions, and business equity across a professional lifetime. The common factor is not extraordinary talent. It is the consistent application of a small number of sound principles applied patiently over time. The 4 principles in this video are exactly that. First principles thinking replaces copying with understanding. The 5 elements of every business give you a diagnostic framework for anything that goes wrong. Counterpositioning gives you a strategy that hard work alone cannot buy. And solving for the person first keeps you connected to the only thing that actually creates sustainable business value, which is genuine usefulness to another human being. These are not shortcuts. They are not hacks. They are the principles that sit underneath every British business success story that is worth studying, and they are available to anyone willing to think clearly and work consistently. The market is open. The opportunity is real. The principles are in this video. What happens next is up to you. If this gave you something to think about and act on, please hit the like button and subscribe to UK Finance with Peter for more straight-talking content on business and money for people living and working in Britain. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.